In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a shaker style cabinet door with the Festool CMS robber table. Alright, I've milled my stock for my rail and stiles, paying particular attention to be sure that all the stock is uniform thickness. Now I'm going to set up the router to accept the coping bit, and that'll make the copes in the ends of our rails. So that's our first step. Cope the end of our rails, and I'm going to be using the sliding table in order to run the rails through and cope the ends. I've got the coping bit into the router, and what I've done is I've just raised a portion of the bit so that the bearing is above the table. Then what I've done is I've slid my framing square along the fence of the sliding table, and I butted it up to the bearing on the router bit. Then I clamped this down. The reason I'm doing that is it's very important that the fence for the sliding table and the fence for the router are perfectly at a right angle to one another. So this setup will help me to do that. So once I've got this perfectly lined up, everything should be square, and I can tighten down the fence. What I'm going to do now is carefully turn the bit and make sure that the sliding fences are out of the way and the bit won't contact them. And that looks good. So right now I should have a perfectly right angle between the sliding table fence and the fence on the router table. Now what I have to do is set the height of the bit. Some rail and style bit sets come with setup blocks, and they're just blocks made of different material. This just happens to be a piece of plastic, and that allows you to set the height of the bit. I'll get you in closer to show you setting the height of the bit. What I'm going to do is just dial this in perfectly until this block will just slide past the bit. So just make a couple of fine adjustments here. Maybe it's a little too much. Right there. That's it. Now I'll just run a couple of test pieces to be sure the height is set just right. Alright, I've made my test cuts and I'm satisfied with the height of the bit. One thing I should mention is that the piece I used to test, I'm just going to use that as a sacrificial piece that I'll put against the fence, and I'll butt my stock up against it, and then that'll help prevent any tear out on the backside of my pieces. So be sure everything is locked down, everything's double checked, and everything's tightened, the dust collector's on. Once you're satisfied everything's set up correctly, let's cut some pieces. For the sticking bit, and I've made some quick adjustments with my setup block, and then what I've done is I've run some scrap through to dial in the height just perfect. What I'm looking to do is to take my stile pieces, the pieces that I've coped, put it into this rail piece, and what I'm looking
I have, which is actually the reason why I bought the thing. Switch them.
Now, of course, this is going to come in handy if you need to route the end of a long board like this. You really aren't going to have much luck running it across the bit this way because there's no support, right? So you need something behind that, either a scrap piece of wood or, in this case, a nice miter gauge. Bring it nice and flush against the fence, and now you've got full support all the way through the cut. I also envision this being incredibly helpful for things like raised panels, as you have to put a panel on all four sides through a very large bit. This is going to give you the kind of support that you really need to make that process safe and pretty accurate. All right, so the cut I'm going to do, just because I'm limited in the materials I have right now, we're just going to do a nice end grain round over on this piece.
Here. And let me put some water in that drywall mud.
Of course, I'm looking here at what I might be able to do with the included feather boards. And this guy here, the guard, it's really going to be in the way, right? Because this wants to sit down on the surface here. So what I'm going to do is rotate that around. And instead of just keeping the feather boards out of the way, I think we can make use of the vertical feather board to help put pressure down. It's the same thickness board, so I'm just going to keep the same setting I had before. And hey, something's better than nothing, right? All right, let's fire it up and make a cut.